call the meeting in order so we get people home and leave allowed tonight. It's, we'll say 7:30 p.m. Let's see. Josh, you want to be seated for Josh tonight? Is that okay, Jean? Yeah. Okay. All right. First item on the agenda this evening. 12 Hemlock Hollow Road, application to do tree and site work alongside driveway to residents, which is in an upland review area. Anyone here on that this evening? I might just come on up just for a couple minutes and we'll just talk about it. If you want to sign in and then just say your name for the record so that Tammy knows. Oh.
Here, here's your pen. You can borrow this. Oh.
You can drag another chair up there so you can sit down so you don't.
So we bought a house in Woodbridge in April, and we really love it here. The house that we bought had not been lived in for many years, and there's a lot of overgrowth of the area next to the driveway. There's also an old asphalt patch that's kind of breaking down, and swing set there, and trees that are kind of starving for light. So we would like to clean up that area to make the trees that are there be able to be more healthy. And what else? There's some trees behind the house that Terry had come out and looked at that are really dangerous leaning on the house. So that those are no questions asked, but the trees next to the driveway, that's why we put in the application, because there is a river that runs between us and our neighbor, and we do plan on doing silt fencing in front of the river, I'm not sure which is. Stream.
It's not a river.
It's not a river, it's a stream.
Okay.
And getting about 17 trees cut down in that area sporadically.
Terry, you've been out there?
I have, and I think that, you know, it may not be, maybe an intermittent stream. It's a, and I think that the problems are when you, and we talked about this, when we introduce fill, and how we deal with that edge between a nominal wetland area and, I mean, the wetland area really starts at least across the street from you, further down. So this may, you know, maybe much more drainage, subdivision drainage than anything. But I think it's properly in front of you, and I think that you know, I don't think the tree clearing is the problem. I don't think that the removal of the asphalt, remnants of asphalt, is a problem. I think it's any proposed filling that you might be doing, and how you deal with it, the filled area versus where it becomes more of a problematic thing. So, you know, before you do any filling, you probably want to remove some organic soils so that it doesn't sink down and that sort of thing. So it's a whole thing that you probably want to find out how to treat that edge.
Is this something that, I read the memo, but is this something that is best dealt with now before our October meeting, simply because you could seed it and stabilize it before the winter? Or
Exactly. It's a timely, I mean, a perfect time to plant this stuff in.
Right. I know the memo says it may make sense for us to go out there and take a look, but do you think, I just hate to wait till October to do this, and the work gets done in November, and then nothing gets stabilized before the winter.
It's almost worse that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's sort of my feeling. And so from reading your application, the pictures and that, looks like it's somewhat of a safety issue too for the house.
I think the safety, the trees in the back are certainly a safety thing, but there's no wetlands impacting those trees, and they're free to to spend your money on
Right.
that tree service.
To have a tree service come out twice.
Right.
Yeah, it's more expensive.
And I also don't think that it's in a wetlands, we're proposing to fill any actual wetlands. This is, I think that what we'd be doing would be considered uplands, and so, it is susceptible to delegation, should you choose to, in terms of timing this.
What's everybody else think?
A question, so you're going to remove some asphalt?
Yeah, there's an old asphalt patch next to the asphalt driveway, which maybe a shed was on or something like that, or
So
another.
you're not going to be replacing that?
No, we're not replacing that. We're gonna plant grass in its place.
So this is Terry,
Do they want, does that mean that they want that?
you're comfortable that no engineering needs to be done?
I don't think so. I mean, my only concern is how much fill. You can't put a lot of fill there because you have the driveway immediately adjacent to that, so that's going to control how much fill you put in. But I think that, perhaps, they're on that stream side, I hesitate to even call it a stream, because it's really, probably an intermittent water course.
There's no water in it right now.
There is a driveway right
It's
now.
dry.
It's been dry
A
most
lot
of
of
the
the
summer.
year.
So you're talking about a few yards as opposed to hundreds of yards?
It's not 100 yards, but, a few yards these days doesn't go very far. But I would imagine that you could see removal of a foot or so of very rich organic materials and depositing, another foot and putting that foot back on top of it and getting a lawn out of that. So, there's going to be a little edge condition that perhaps, we're lucky enough to find any blocks or something like that that might be a little bit.
A lot of rocks.
Right. Short bridges, probably rocks.
So what are you saying to do with the rocks?
Put them along the street,
Okay. Yeah,
just to make that transition.
that sounds actually.
So, how far do you think from the stream, like from the intermittent stream, is the filling going to take place? Any estimation?
I was going to say 25 to 30. I think that 50 feet doesn't give you much, for the driveway.
Diagonal, so,
Right.
yeah.
But again, it's not, it's intermittent, it's not, contributing a great deal to our charge.
Looks like it's heavily wooded to the stream, so.
Very heavy.
And that's all gonna be grass afterwards?
Yeah. And we're gonna leave some trees. By this stream, there's quite a few trees actually down in front of it and in it. I don't know if that makes a difference.
We like that.
What's everybody else think? I'm inclined to just delegate to Terry so we can get it done before the seasons change.
So you're comfortable?
I think so. The schedule would be to get it done this October, so if you get delegation time, then it will be to get it done. Yeah, so I'm inclined to, obviously,
All right, I mean, we might as well dispose of this one. We have a motion to delegate this to Terry.
I'll make a motion to delegate.
Jack moved,
Second that.
Barry seconded, all in favor? Opposed, 5-0 approved. So what that means is that Terry will supervise whatever you're going to do. It's a more efficient process than waiting until next month for us to decide when we lose the season. So talk to Terry and Chris next week, and then you can get going on it. Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good night. Okay, next item on the agenda, 18 Vernon Court, preliminary discussion.
17.
Oh, 17. Oh, 17? Oh, 17, yeah, so 17, one place, 18, another place. Mr. Torrance, you want to come up?
Please.
Neil and Torrance, I live at 17 Vernon Court. always like to start when I'm up here to thank each one of you for doing what you're doing. As I understand, you all volunteer at town, so it's much appreciated. We're here to discuss, we're looking to do some shiitake mushroom farming on some of the wetland areas on my property. My son Leland and old friend Will Conway from both graduated County School and done quite a bit of farming at Woofing and around the country, Argentina, Martha's Vineyard, and we're all very psyched to do this shiitake farming process. We obviously want to make some money at it. We are sort of following the University of Vermont's guidelines for how to do that, as well as Will tell you a little about the shiitake farm in Martha's Vineyard that he's familiar with. I have a little handout. I just did one copy, but I wanted to pass it around. It seems to be quite low impact. In other words, everything is portable. It involves bringing oak logs, bolts, to actually have the mushrooms grow from those oak, which we are looking at. Basically, we talked with the water company, and we've also talked with some of the permitted logging people at the water company and the forester there. So we're probably going to be using local oak to do this. But I'll let Will be more detailed in that. But in essence, we're looking, there's sort of a calendar in here of planting, which you'll see. We would like to start in October. We're hoping that this is an activity that is, well, from our read of the regulations, it's an as-of-right activity. So we're hoping we might be able to do some, start some of this in October.
Okay, we'll take a look at that, but just educate me a little bit just on what's involved. So you bring logs into the wetland area, or is that?
Well, Bob, if you will, I love these guys, they're part of the whole thing, so yeah, let me just sign in here now.
Hi everyone, my name is Will Conway. So yeah, like Leland said, since I graduated Amity, I've lived in a few different places working in agriculture all along the way, so I'm excited to return to my community and start my own agricultural endeavor. So the shiitake mushroom process is one that is extremely sustainable and in sync with natural forest ecosystems. So the vast majority of commercially grown mushrooms in this country are grown in plastic bags of ground organic material in climate-controlled greenhouses. It's extremely energy and chemical intensive process. The more ancient, sustainable way of doing it is to cultivate mushroom spawn. We're going to purchase it from a company in New Hampshire. Inject the spawn, drill holes into logs that are 4 feet long, 4 to 8 inches in diameter. Drill holes into them, inject them with mushroom spawn mixed with sawdust. Mushrooms feed off of the polysaccharides within wood. Mushrooms are so healthy because, unlike the plant, they eat organic matter like a cow does, whereas plants, take their energy from the sun. So once they're inoculated, this process of injecting them with mushroom spawn, they need about a year of incubation, in which they need to be under 85% shade cover. So we'd like to inoculate them this fall in hopes of having our first harvest by the end of next summer, early fall of 2018. So yeah, the activities involved in that are stacking logs. We're going to be planning on doing 200 logs, 200 4-foot logs, and we're going to line them on pallets in the woods. You want them off of the soil so that other funguses and pests can't pollinate them. So if you look around at pictures, those pictures are from a recent visit to a shiitake operation in Vermont that I went to that's doing 300 logs. So 300 logs, when you see it, it's really not. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space. 4-foot logs that are 6 inches in diameter is a 100-foot run. We plan on doing it in 2 50-foot rows.
Are you gonna clear the ground under the pallets, or?
Yeah, we're gonna do some clearing of debris and leaves so that it's easier for us to walk around and so that we're not.
Or no trees?
No tree, yeah, so that we're not creating we're gonna work within the existing trees.
So you want the shade.
You want the shade.
Because that's the idea,
Yeah.
it's the natural canopy is our 80% shade.
Yeah. One thing we might implement is in the winter when there's no foliage, erecting a few posts and putting shade cloth, suspending shade cloth over our logs to keep them shaded. One of the other activities that is involved in this process is in order to induce fruiting. So you'll see a picture of a plastic agricultural bin. After the 12-month incubation period, soak the logs for 24 hours. That sort of shocks them into creating mushrooms. So we'll have a few of those agricultural bins that I think are 48 inches deep by maybe,
I think 6 feet long.
yeah, so we'll have a couple of those out in the woods too to soak them.
And yeah, so I think it's pretty, I think, minimally invasive to the wetlands area. I just, we're gonna have a few tubs to soak the logs in, but other than that, it's for the most part logs sitting in the woods.
Is there a reason why this has to be located in a wetlands area, or is it just you're looking for a shade?
Well, just the only woods we really have on the property
Is it
wetlands.
wetlands?
Yeah.
Are there any zoning issues with doing this?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that it gets complicated if you're seeking from the assessor, a tax advantage agricultural thing, but that's not here, and that's tonight, so that doesn't much matter. I guess the critical question is a little bit more information on process. Are you using a motorized equipment to move these logs into their spot?
No. And actually, one of the things, and we've looked into this, we've studied a few different operations, and so everything that we're using is portable and hand portable. We're going to be using battery-operated drills to actually drill into the oak. We would like to use, we're going to use actually a hand pump system, manual system to fill the tubs when we soak the logs. Again,
How do the logs get there? You carry them in?
Everything's carried.
The idea is, we have that road from North Pease to our house. So what we intended to do is basically we put the 40-inch to 48-inch 6-inch logs. So we would drive in, we'd offload them on either side of the road if that's what we could do, and then we would actually put them, we would drill them and then put them on pallets, oak pallets that we would actually move around. And one of the things we would welcome you guys to go out and look at where we're thinking of doing this. I would also like to say about this area is that historically for a couple hundred years, this area was field for cattle, and for beef cattle and dairy cattle. And so it's only in the last 30 or 40 years that it's actually grown up to be wetland. And as you probably know, I was here a number of years ago when we got this designated as a natural preserve, and we've been working to try and keep invasive species out of this area. What invasive means anymore, I'm not really sure.
Who designates things as preserved?
It's, we got it designated. You remember we came with Steve Danzer years ago, he's an inland wetlands guy, and he'd done some soil sampling, and it's a federal program, and so we actually have signage up, and so basically the only other thing we did is when we came here to get permission to cut plants down under the power lines some time ago. But essentially, we're thinking from our read of the regulations that to farm in that way is an as-of-right situation. But, you know, we want to make sure.
So you're not, we are blessed with one of the most longest sentences in Connecticut regulations, by the way. With an unfortunate use of punctuation, which has caused, in other parts of Connecticut, great litigation over this punctuation.
You mean commas?
It just doesn't, they don't make any sense. And because of that, the courts have construed it in many different ways. But are you planning on building any roads?
No.
And in particular, roads that are not associated with the agricultural operations?
No.
Are you planning on building any buildings?
No.
Structures?
No.
Well,
and if I can answer that clearly, is that I don't know if it would be considered a structure, but we will have basically like a sawhorse type of arrangement where we have the logs set up as a teepee after they've been inoculated, but it's temporary. I mean, it's not. There's no footings. There's no. Yeah. You're
not going to relocate any water courses with continual flow?
No.
I'm just using this.
No, no.
This is great.
Right. You're not filling or reclaiming any wetlands or water courses. You're not clear cutting any timber.
No.
You're not mining any topsoil, peat, sand, gravel. Okay. So I think that torturous sentence, is probably met. I do think that we like to ask people in this instance to imagine yourselves as a success. We've heard about did you say inoculation? Of the oak logs. We've heard about the arrival of the oak logs in the area. And obviously they must be handled a good deal within the first interval, because you first inoculate them, then you tip them up in a teepee, and then you put them down and let these things grow. Right. And then are they largely left alone for a year?
12 months in the woods, and then they go from laying flat to tipped up, leaning up against.
So you tip it up again?
Yeah, for ease of harvest. That way, rather than having it lie on the ground and standing up, leaning on something, you can get around the whole log.
Right, and then we're harvesting from 360 degrees of the lot as opposed to.
Okay. So let's talk about the harvest. Any machinery involved?
No, it's all hand picked.
Where do you put your mushrooms after you pick it off the lawn?
In a freezer.
Hopefully Union Lake.
Oh, well, so maybe this.
Does it go a bag? Is it going to a tractor?
Yeah, no, it's going to go into a hand crate, like a milk cart, a harvest crate, and then we'll store them in refrigeration in the house, out of the wetlands.
I think the closest thing to a structure we might have is workbenches out there to be putting the logs on and harvesting, but again, it's a week in the fall, of us inoculating, getting the logs in, inoculating, then a year they're sitting there in the woods, and then about a week of us, harvesting out there.
And then what happens after the harvest?
Then they go inside into the freezer.
The mushrooms do. The logs stay there, and the logs can be used for 2 to 3 years afterwards. So we may inoculate in the fall, and then do it again in the spring with more logs. So we can have a continual harvest.
And when those logs get used up,
Yeah, then they can be burned in a fire to be disposed of, or they can be given to a chipper to chip them. Yeah.
so they're hauled out and new logs are brought in.
Yeah.
You make a good fence post.
They're 4 feet high.
So
it's a little short.
Short fence.
Yeah, and I think there is some rock going on as
wet
fungus
Over
cultures,
years,
you
and
know,
it's been
established.
restored topsoil by having these decomposing organic matter.
Or any chemicals, fertilizer?
It's completely chemical free.
What about irrigation?
So we plan on pumping water from the wetlands pond that is just a few yards from the laying ground is where you call it. And the irrigation, it would involve filling those storage bins full of water and then perhaps soaking them if they seem to be drying out. If we get a really hot, dry spell in the summer, UVM, it recommends that you hose them down.
So you propose taking water out of the wetlands pond?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what's the methodology of that?
We were gonna set up
Gas hand motor right next to
No,
it?
No.
so what
We're
we
doing a
wanted
hand
to
pump.
do was it's like a single piston gravity pump, just when you start, like with one push, the piston keeps it pumping, just to fill up the tubs, and once it, and like we explained, I think the tub's 48 inches by 144 or something like that. Once the tub's full, we can be soaking the logs in that, and then, I guess it got dirty, just pour it back in, you know.
And that,
But the
that pump,
dirtiness
that
is-
single piston pump, the electromotive force of that, it's not an electric motor, it's a gasoline motor.
No, it's gravity. There's no motor in it. It's just a single piston. When you press the piston head in, as long as it's lower than the water, the pressure from the water keeps it pumping.
And that, in this case, would it be lower than the water?
Well, we're gonna have to. But so
Well, I.
these are logistics we haven't really. thought of.
Okay, I mean, I can imagine that being successful, you know, this sort of stuff would become tiresome after a while. And that it would be only human nature to find it easier way. But if you were to use a, you know, just because you have a pump doesn't mean that the worst case scenario is the gasoline pump.
Right.
driven
And that's a
down
logical
right next to
thought.
the
It's going to be for expanding the
Right.
energy gas pump.
Right. But one could locate that not next to the pond, because they just have a long suction hose
Correct.
and bring it to, you know, I mean, the idea is to keep it away from the pond, whether it's in the upland area or, you know, or where you're gonna throw those logs. You know, it might be easier to have it out there anyway.
Right.
Just have a small
That's a
hose.
good point.
So,
Do you folks have any sort of a business plan?
Well, so our
What
larger,
the investment is, what the return on?
so the investment is quite low in terms of, it's mostly manual labor at this point, and the way the Martha's Vineyard one is, and we've talked to Ben Sandweiss, you know, who's has a logging enterprise in City Bench here, and they feel they can supply us at no cost most of the logs. So the entry level is quite low. I will say the guys out in Martha's Vineyard, they're, you know, MIT graduate, Harvard graduate, and they're doing pretty well at it. We haven't really done a business plan. What we're going to do is see if we can make it work, if we can actually grow. We do have 2 restaurants in New Haven that have committed to buy from us. I would say the larger plan is my son and I and Will would really like to make our place a sustainable place as a farm. Right now we just do gentleman farming in terms of our chickens and our pigs and our ducks and eggs and all the rest of it, but eventually we would like to be able to, we already contribute some to the Mary Mountain Farm, Sorensen Farm, but we'd like to make a go of it. And we're not particularly sophisticated, we're trying to learn, you know, we're trying to get to the point where we can make this work. I don't come from a farming family. These guys have a lot more experience than I do, but our first experiment really is we want to see if we can actually get these mushrooms to grow. We haven't made a contractual agreement to supply, but we have a good, you know, a goodwill handshake with 2 restaurants that say they're going to buy our stuff, and we're sort of trying to take it from there.
What's sort of like How much land is this going to take? What's the footprint going to look like?
I mean, the
So-
lots themselves take up two 50-foot by 4-foot runs.
Right, so initially our project here, what we want to do is put two 4-foot wide by 50-foot long rows of just one log, not stacked up, one 4-inch width log going down 50 feet into
So
rows.
100 square, 100 feet
And
of
those are
lots.
little pallets,
Right.
Yeah,
which are
But now-
3 by 4 feet or
yeah.
Right, and something I considered also was, but it doesn't really affect this, is most I didn't know if pallets were pressure treated, and if that would affect the wetlands, but what we're looking at is fine, so.
And
Right.
Now, if you inoculate again in the spring, that means you would double the size of that footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the things I'm a great believer in is if you can preserve, farmland certainly, and this, wetlands is, farming is something that seems to be encouraged in wetlands. It seems like good stewardship, and we would actually appreciate if you guys, are a part of this, look at it, see if it works. The grander plan is I would actually love to grow wetlands plants in the wetlands and sell them online, which is done out in, there's a fellow out in Norwich, Connecticut, who's doing that. But what he does is he promotes and stewards wetlands by producing plants that sometimes people can't get or plant.
Okay, this has been interesting, actually.
seems like a walk through this would be useful.
There's nothing to see yet, though.
Yeah, but it
Right,
looks
and-
like areas and what the wetlands area looks like.
sure.
Because you don't have a application for a permit yet, so that would.
Do we need to fill out an application for a permit, or is it as of right?
Yeah, that's what we basically have to decide, whether, whether it's within the farming, it sounds like they'd be welcoming us to go out and go down and see it, but, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I believe it says it right, but in our regulations, it's clearly, that determination is made by the agency. And we think that it says by forms supplied by the agency with sufficient information, and that's why we were asking for this information earlier than we were. And the only forms we have available to fill out is an application. So, I think you get to the same spot. It is not, I don't believe it's not because it's in a wetlands, you can't delegate it to your authorization. So,
So, my question to you guys would be, obviously if we do an application, then Chris Sullivan was helpful with this because we were thinking of trying to put an application in for this go around, but we couldn't, time was too quick. Is that we sort of question the reason why something that's as of right, as we read in the regulations, would require that we have a hearing and we'd have to notify 8 neighbors, including across the street, which is over 300 feet away from the activity. We're just really not sure why we need that level of, and I hear what Terry's saying about maybe there's no other vehicle. I understand from some of the consultants we've talked to that there's a waiver process. Not sure what that is. I'm not really that familiar. But I understand that in many situations like this, that the commissions actually do give permission without formal applications because they determine it is as of right.
Well, and I think we just want to be upfront with, our experimenting, but at this stage, our initial investment is $200, to buy spores for this, and a lot of it is just that, you know, sort of experimental. So we just want to, you know, do everything right before we start having logs growing mushrooms in our wetlands.
But it's
you know?
time sensitive. The sooner we can do it, the
That's
sooner we
the
can
one.
get mushrooms. So.
Well, and October is sort of the time
It's
most guys.
unfortunate. I don't imagine that you started yesterday afternoon and said, yeah, I want to grow a mushroom. Right? I mean, you had this thought.
Yes, it's been stirring.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's probably in your judgment. I don't think that, you know, I guess it would have been an easier thing had, you know, had we had timely information distributed to the people in the packages that they spend hours poring over before a meeting, so to prepare their questions for you tonight. But, you know, to have a one handout of somebody else's stuff, you know, passing around tonight, you'll have to know if they have enough information and to make a decision.
Well, I think they've done a good job telling us, and now I sort of know what they're planning on doing and how they're doing it, where they're doing it, so, I mean, that part has been accomplished, I think.
Okay.
I don't, my meaning is that within the farming exception anyway, so, but we probably do need to follow the regulation where we have to make that determination. In order to make that determination, we really need an application. But in my mind, I think it's within the exempt activities.
It appears to be.
Now, our October meeting is 18th, yeah. That still give you enough time to do what you need to do if we actually approved it at that point, or?
Sure.
it is-
Yeah,
what
that would
it
be,
is?
you know, we would get going the day
Yeah,
and
let
let
you
you approve.
approve.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could get the sense from the discussion, though.
Yeah,
that's-
no, that sounds,
fair.
that sounds, we want to farm in the wetlands, yeah.
Terry, any comment on that process, or?
I mean, I think that you know, it would be useful for the agency to have your commentary that you've just given us as part of the application. Sit down on a piece of paper and write it out. Just
Yeah,
exactly what you
totally.
said now.
Yeah.
And describe, you know, the sunrise and sunset on, you know, mushroom land.
Okay.
No, we'll get some photos of the space in question.
And especially the part about getting the logs and the pallets into the area.
Sure.
You know, that's.
Because what we're gonna have to
If you're
deal
gonna
with.
carry it, you're gonna carry, I mean, a 4-foot log, 6-inch diameter.
You gotta get them
And
like 13 feet.
just so you guys know, the road that's in question is, comes up from, through the Sorensen Farm, went down to West River, and that right-of-way, that pathway has been kept open for almost 300 years.
It's hard to get across Amity Road, though, right?
It goes right across Amity Road.
It's hard to get across Amity Road.
Well, did you know there used to be a tunnel under Amity Road where they used to take the dairy cattle under there? But so it goes up and through the high school, so it's right from the town center all the way down to West River.
Yeah, well, as Jack was saying, to the extent you could put some of this material together with the application, because the next person who comes by and wants to do something else, we just need to sort of keep consistent
Sure,
as to
so
how we deal with these.
just to be clear, you're just asking us for detailed step-by-step enumeration of this and some pictures and.
Well, yeah, and the material you gave us showing, you know, that was.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to
helpful,
provide that, but in terms of like the application, do we have to go through the whole formal application process, or do you just
We have
want
to
to
send
sort
all
of
the
revise
registered
the
letters
version?
out and
I don't think so for
Okay.
a determination that it's an exempt activity. I don't know, what do you? Well, I don't know, I guess.
I mean, by the, you know, there seems to be two distinct sections in the regulation. There's permitted, non-regulated, and there's regulated. And the process for permitted, non-regulated is a decision amongst the agency as to whether or not it is permitted, non-regulated. And that decision-making process
Yes.
seems exempt from the formal application process for a regulated activity.
It is, except that it's, you know, that the commission shall make that determination based on a form provided for it, and there will be.
Sufficient information.
So what's the
So if it's that, well, the form is the application.
Okay.
And, you know, I don't know if it's the notification of neighbors that is troubling you, or if it's the ad in the newspaper that's troubling you. I mean, we find that pretty routine stuff. You know, more notice, more better. You know, you might very well have served to educate people about what you do, market yourself. There might be other restaurants that might be interested in a year of having a mushroom to sell. You know, I mean, I don't think there's a downside to it.
Well, I do think that's a good point, although I think, however, certain people in proximity may have certain feelings where they're, for other reasons, maybe might have certain prejudices.
But legally, we see those people all day long. And you know, this
You do a pretty
agency
good job
separate
of,
the facts.
yeah, you do a pretty good job of separating emotions and facts and what we're supposed to be focusing on, so I don't want to worry about that part of it.
Cool.
Sometimes a
No
mushroom is a
problem.
mushroom.
We're just fun guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bully.
And the other thing that the notifications do, I mean, it's sort of,
This is the next one.
tells people what you're doing.
Mhm.
And Terry said,
It's kind of.
if they have a legitimate argument, you know, that's addressed,
Okay.
Sure. Makes sense.
as opposed to having to defend that you didn't do that.
And even
So
though
it eliminates that issue.
And even though typically when you do an application, we can't act on the first hearing, if we determine that it's not an activity that's within the scope of our jurisdiction that we have to regulate, then I think we could act on it that night.
I can
Simply, yeah, okay, good. Just have to be
Cool.
sure.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys so much.
ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, going over to old business. 65 Ansonia Road application to address remediation of disturbed upland review area and wetlands. Anybody here on that tonight? Terry, what do we want to do about this? We have to act on something.
Yep. I don't know.
Well, you
I don't
know,
think we ever got a buffer.
we haven't got any revisions on anything or plans or, well, okay, the application was to try to fix something that they did without a permit.
Right.
So we have nothing to approve. What do we deny it and then ask them to come back, or we do a cease and desist? What do you think?
I don't know if there's a lot of choices here. I mean, you know, if the issue was, if there was a problem in the first place, which that's our story, right? Is that this land was cleared to a running river, by the way, and you know, at minimum in previous cases like this, the remedial action was to establish some sort of buffering from all these lawn chemicals that created this active stream. Much different than the previous application, by the way. The threat is much greater. The wetland area in the stream is a very important part of the ecosystem right there. And, you know, this is like Race Brook. So, so I think that I don't see that you have all that many choices, quite frankly. Because how do you get the buffer any other way?
I haven't driven by there lately, or the once or twice I have,
They've done what they set out to do, is to tear down everything and plant grass, and they proceed, despite our concerns.
Okay. Well, since the application that they submitted we don't think is sufficient, I guess we have to deny the application, then we just have to figure out what the next step would be to get their attention again. Okay, what's everybody think?
So, from what you said, they went ahead and did what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So what's, I guess I would ask, what's your position in terms of we can deny permit?
The violation continues.
Oh, we can approve it with amendments, and we'll just tell them what they have to do.
And it's likely that if they don't even show up at this meeting, that they're
You know,
anxious to do.
What sort of recourse do we
We could find that sometimes people get money, catches it.
and we working on a cease and restore? I mean, we denied the application.
I think it's a further action by the enforcement officer is what it is.
I'm looking at section 22A-44 of the state statute. Any person who, Part B, commits, takes part in, or assists in any violation, so forth and so on, shall be assessed a civil penalty of not more than $1,000 for each offense.
Yep.
I mean,
That's
it
it.
depends how far we want to pursue it, and then there, it's in the law, let's see, talking about for each separate offense and possibly 60 days imprisonment. So this is just what's in the section.
And so, in situations like this, we don't like to negotiate against ourselves, so we start high and settle for, the buffer of our dreams.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it seems based on Dr. Scola's document, that some engineering needed to be done.
Yep. We need a solution. We have a problem in search of a solution.
Yeah. But, similar to the tree removal file, we're going to lose the season soon, and it's just going to get worse. Is it stabilized though, at least there, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. So we probably have to do something quickly.
Well, but, in other cases, if we have somebody in the room who wants to do something, we can help them.
Yeah.
We can't get this application done.
So it sounds like we want to deny the permit and have you do some sort of appropriate.
Further action.
All right. Okay, do we have a motion to deny the permit without prejudice, I guess? They can come back and try to salvage some of this mess. but,
I'll make that motion.
Jack moves second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Dave seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, okay. All right, so it's denied without prejudice, and the request being that Terry take some action to get their attention so we can try to get this straightened out before winter. Okay.
Is it appropriate, or do you copy us on the actual letter of representation?
Certainly can, if you like.
This is a,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, so
Do you think you should just do a cease and desist at this point, and we'd have to have a meeting, or time it for the next meeting, or do you have a hearing at that point, or what do you think?
No, my instincts tell me, I perhaps want to reflect upon it, but, I would think that since we don't have an attentive applicant, that, I think that a larger enforcement over money damages, and perhaps that'll bring here.
A letter from Jerry quoting the statute, or something from you quoting, including the statute, and see
Sure.
see what happens.
Sure. And sometimes it's an element of the toolbox.
All right, let's move on. 33 Woodside Drive.
Well, do you want to do,
Oh.
I thought,
Oh, you want to do that for, oh, sure, yeah.
no, they're first, the one I'm looking at, they're first.
Oh, okay.
That's right, you took this guy, it looks like he was out of order.
Well,
Or the memo?
Yeah, I was just going off
Oh, okay,
the,
well, look, what's that right?
off the agenda.
I didn't see you did.
It's in red, you missed it.
Well, I grabbed this, but no.
Okay, application to amend permit for wetland remediation with smaller remediation area.
What's your pleasure?
Now, to be honest with you, when we first approved the house, it was a tight fit, and we had and this is all just my opinion at this point, it was tight fit, and we granted a permit with certain restrictions. Then we had to deal with the fact that those restrictions weren't respected in a way, and other things were done. And now we're back here with a similar situation, so, I'm of the mind that we did enough the first time and the second time, and now the third time, it's just, it should have been followed. The patio is beyond where it's supposed to be, and I'm of the opinion that it should be brought back to where it was supposed to be under the second approval that was given. So, but I'm just speaking for myself on that. So.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree,
It
absolutely.
should have been built as was approved.
Yeah, we just got, at some point, we just got to, just out of respect for what we decide on and impose on, or what we permit for everybody else, we just have to have something that's followed.
Okay.
So, anyway, so my inclination is to deny it.
Can I have a few words, please?
Sure, if you want to come up and sign it.
Just sign it.
You just remind about the original approval, and I would like to talk about the same issue. My original set of plan, which was submitted, used to have a footprint of the house almost 1,000 feet larger than it is now. I respect your idea that should be too big impact on the environment and issuing the whole house. The back of the house was pushed away from the lake. The main reason why you asked me to shrink the footprint of the house, because during the construction, I may catch a piece of the property which is in the 50 foot from the lake. And I respect that, and I did. After all, we have a house away from the property, all the land completely restored. And now we're talking about approved plan, which has also clearance line, which is away from the 50 foot line. And the bottom line is, it's in my land. I pay for this and I pay taxes for this. I'm not arguing about the first 50 foot from the lake. No question about that. But away from this 50 foot, I still believe that in this country there is a common sense. You decide, I respect your opinion, you decide that you should stick to the plan, that's fine. I just want to say that I'm not going to remove that point. I'm going to live in this house as is, without certificate of occupancy. That's the way you make me do this. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, a couple times now you've said you're going to do one thing and you end up.
I'm sorry for your interruption here, but I never lied about anything.
Oh, no, I'm not saying you lied, it wasn't done right.
It
That's what
was
I'm
done
saying.
exactly as per plan. The remediation was done exactly as per plan. And clearance line become an issue when you second time approved my solar array. And still, now, as we speak, and when you saw the property, everything away from the 50 foot line restored. Why we have to be so stubborn and and catch another 20 feet, or some places another 12 feet? I don't know. I have no explanation for that. 50 foot is yours, the rest is mine. Why we supposed to go a different direction?
It's
If
not
it's
the way,
already restored.
that's not the way things work. And when you say you're gonna do one thing and you do something
And
else, you
Let
know,
me ask you, what exactly did they say I will do and they
your
didn't?
plans speak for you in this, and the plan that we approved had the dimensions of that patio to a certain extent. And then the patio was larger than the,
We're
what was
talking
proposed.
about, 200 square foot?
I don't know.
It's a 200 square foot we're talking about. 200 square foot. I shrink my house, footprint of the house, 1,000 square foot.
It-
And now we're talking about 200
It
square foot.
was a tight lot to begin with, okay? And we accommodated you in order to build that big of a house on that small of a lot with that much wetland on the lot and in proximity to the pond. So you know, it just, we shouldn't be here the third time.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have to, might as well vote on this one. Everybody seems to have had, unless there's some other discussion. We have a motion to deny the application. David moved, we have a second. Josh seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstention. All right, so that's applications denied. Let's move on. And we
Can I ask Terry a question? The CO, that's not the issue.
It's not.
With the violation in place of the wetlands, which has now been withdrawn. What is now the process for them to get a CO? Presuming that they're going to want to have that before they move into that house, which already looks like it was split. That's a good issue.
So here's the sad truth about wetlands regulation in Connecticut. Unlike zoning, where there's a specific state law that says no building inspector shall issue either a building permit or a certificate of occupancy, it is not zoning compliant. There's no similar law about wetlands. All the members of the agency may remember another matter that was in front of you where we had not as outrageous lack of cooperation, but a dogged level of cooperation that didn't result, where we had unresolved wetlands issues, and there was nothing that the building inspection could do about it. So, fortunately, at this particular time, there are several minor outstanding building code issues that prevent the issues of the certificate of occupancy
At that property.
at that property. Easily resolved, by the way. Pretty quickly. He, by making the statement that he did tonight, where he's going to occupy his building in, adverse to any even said certificate of occupancy, he's breaking a state law. It's not a building code issue, it's a state law. So we can explore that remedy. But at the end of the day, we should know that, it's called a mandamus action, by the way. If a building official won't issue a building permit, he's done everything that he can do to satisfy everything. You can probably have that from a judge. And frankly, he could probably have it before me, before he gets to the judge. So we can be, as we have the fine process that we can explore, as we talked about earlier this evening. There is a statutory basis for that, and some people understand money more than they understand stuff that we talk about. So,
Can I ask another question? As I recall, looking at that, and this is, that was an impervious surface on that patio. this is just a question of what do you think about, if we were to ask them to change the patio to make it a pervious surface, so at least it wasn't complete runoff off that patio, so it's like the corners open to the rain, to help mitigate some of that water from. Is that?
Didn't seem tonight like he was interested in doing anything at all.
All right, let's move on for the moment, and then we can revisit and talk about things afterwards. 639 Amity Road, application for repair of fallen stone wall along driveway, adjoining pond. Sorry, it's taking this long to get to it. Hello.
My husband's sorry, he can't be here tonight, he has to be in New York because he's sitting tomorrow. This is a very clear and wonderful analysis of the workflow. Really great.
So, Mr. Chairman, as you may recall, we suggested that at an earlier meeting that because this work has been made necessary, I believe, because of the largely the state road drainage, we used our consulting engineer, Bob Piscopo's, basically the size pipes. And my theory, pipe is the least expensive of the things that we have to deal with during the day. And he's produced a rather comprehensive, as Bob always does, by the way, and we expect him to. He went out and looked at the drainage area and he's produced things. And I guess, the question to you is, do you have enough information to proceed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce my caretaker, Ken Welch.
We've met them before.
Together.
Yeah.
We've had them before.
I wasn't sure. I think we have enough information, we're very grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have to go out and put some different out.
Right.
I think it's interesting, we didn't talk about the brook that joins the runoff under Amity Road, that joins the catch basin above. It comes out of Sheila's multiple operation just north of us in Bethany. This is a complete violation of Bethany. So I don't know what we can do about that. But
You can ask Bethany.
Bethany is not willing to take out this Sheila. So we did have an interesting red bloom in that catch basin. Nitrogen bloom, what do you call it? Or something like that.
Nitrogen.
He's grinding up stumps and trees and have a great mulch operation that's not permitted. It's no legal operation. But they're not going to take it close. Anyway, that's minor compared to the amount of water that runs out off the highway. There was a nice bigger wetland area north of the catch basin. For years and years and years until the water just naturally ran off into that. Lots of stuff.
We talk a lot about, non-point source drainage for a reason, and that's, you just described it. Is that the more that the more we channel the water, the more problems we have. So that nice runoff, I don't know what they thought they were doing with that curve, but then we'd have to see in DOT's heart what they're thinking. And
I tried to raise this with them when they came out, and they said, well, it's the same water.
right,
Every year for the last 8 years.
Time rate this.
it's just more of it faster, right?
No, I wasn't going to do anyway.
We have plenty of room to put 24-inch pipes as opposed to what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a wide open area.
so I think it's not an issue at all. The information that we had gone on prior to did not include such a large area. So the topographic map that he was using included everything on the other side of the street, and that's what threw it off.
Right.
That and the 25-year table, we only know what a 10-year table is.
You know, you have to be careful when you ask an engineer to do something.
I know.
Probably do it. So,
But in terms of it changing our project, a little more pipe and a little more rock.
yeah.
Okay, so basically we're all set, I'm hearing?
Yeah, we were waiting for tonight so we can start it. We had a lot of more work to do with the wall, and winter's coming, so.
Yeah. And as you can hear, the theme for this evening was you
Yes.
gotta get this stuff stabilized before the winter.
Exactly.
Even though it doesn't feel like winter will be here anytime soon today, but anyway,
It'll show up.
yeah.
Well, this is an old ice pond for the dairy operation.
Uh-huh.
The farm had until 1944, they had 60 Jersey cows. And they used that pond, it's spring fed mainly, really, not dependent on fixed cattle. And the climate was such that they could cut 12-inch deep blocks and store it for the summer for their milk.
Oh, wow.
The storage barn still exists.
Okay, does anybody else have anything else that we need to talk about? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the application as amended by Bob's report, basically? Jack moved, Barry seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions? You're all set?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Welcome.
Okay.
That's it.
Next time, I'm surprised John left, Park Lane. Wasn't John here on Park Lane on your scanning? I thought he was. All right.
Sure. Just to know what's going on.
Yeah,
Okay.
before we cover it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, maps were his, so,
My.
pardon me?
Want me to see if he's still standing outside?
I'll probably not think that's fine.
Okay.
All right, let's turn around if he was moving. Have a good night. No, I don't know. Not here.
Well, I mean, we do have Mr. Criscolo's comments on it, right?
Yeah, I thought that was just a minor
Right.
question that was left. So I mean, we have to act on it, so my thought is, approve it subject to complying with Bob's comments and his review of the bond estimate
Mm-hmm.
that was submitted, I mean, it's like 12 acres or something. It's really big a lot.
Who's coming number one?
I think maybe you see this in July, not August, not July.
So it's not, that Criscolo's comments, seem to have to do about the publishing of information on plans, not so much move everything over.
Yeah, right.
So perhaps that's something that you can adopt as a condition.
Yeah. And then just have a review, the bond estimate that.
Typically what we do is have both your agent and the engineer review the bond.
Okay.
I enjoy the opportunity of raising it.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the application subject to the plans being revised in accordance with Bob's letter and Terry and Bob's review of the bond calculation?
So
Dave moved. Oh, second.
I'll second.
Jack seconded. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 5-0 approved. Okay, beyond that, the correspondence, enforcement officer report. Terry, anything going on we have to worry about other than what we already heard tonight?
What you heard tonight is what there is.
All right.
Is there any follow-up to the comments on 220 Single?
We do not have he's indicated to me that he's hired David Lord to respond to our issues and what he's done. And I have not seen any. I've supplied a lot of information to Mr. Lord at his request, but I have not seen anything back yet.
He is, this person is,
I'm sorry.
and this person is,
David Lord, he's a soil scientist of some reputation.
a lot of activity in the house.
I don't think much of it has to do with the house. He is, from a building inspector, you can get a building inspector who's perhaps more vigorous, by the way. He insulated the house. It took 3 or 4 tries to do that. And I believe that he's now chief architect.
Okay.
I've never actually gone back more than once for an insulation inspection, but you should know it's usually quite straightforward. But needed more attention than usual.
All right, this week's perfect. All right, moving right along. Next time on the agenda is minutes of the regular meeting of July 19th.
There's some typos.
Fire away, Gene.
I could start with one, actually, the
Yeah.
bottom of the first page, the 3rd bullet down, and that list of bullets where it says a shed would and put on a base. I think it just be the shed would be put on a base.
Any other?
I can't find mine.
Can I talk about the
Sure.
minutes of the site inspection that we did on,
Yeah, let's finish the meeting first,
Okay.
so just,
I'm sorry, I
don't
don't
confuse
confuse
Tammy
Sorry.
or me.
On the second page in the middle of the paragraph about Vernon Court, the sentence that starts, staff reported that and. No, what was missing there?
It probably a he,
That they had.
They.
or they,
Yeah.
they, he or she.
Okay.
And on the 4th page, under the second bullet, it says the property is on Oak Hill and Vernon Drive, but it's on Ribbon Road.
Okay, right up here. That walk came out very nice, that you put in there
Yeah.
too.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
On page 7, 3rd bullet, the applicant is proposed to improve the driveway be at the wetland, something. I don't know what that says, but.
The driveway at the wetland, probably just take the, I think,
Yeah. That's what I found. Just little slip-ups of typing.
Anybody else have anything?
I do not.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of July 19th, subject to those corrections?
Make the motion.
That's Josh? Yeah, Josh, second. Gary, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstentions, 5-0. Approved with those changes. I wrote, did you get them, Tammy? I
Yes.
did. Okay. All right, then we have the minutes of the site visit on August 30th. Any comments or corrections on that?
There's a little typo, it says site inspection minutes, August 30th, 2015.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that either. Yeah.
Anything ever comes up, you know.
Yeah. Other than the date, any other comments? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the site visit minutes of August 30th, 2017? Jack moves for approval, second.
Yes, sir.
Josh seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, okay, 5-0. Approved with that one correction. Now, let's see what else is on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, there's probably one thing that you should know about, that we received some correspondence, I think you have it, from Mr. Pryor about 190 Seymour Road, and he reports to us that DOT has confirmed that, that the required work in the right-of-way has been completed. We are holding the final $7,200 of his bond, and we're wondering if it would be okay for us to have Bob Costello and myself do a final inspection of the property.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. We
In
need to deal with it.
anticipation of a bond release in that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Chris had August 30th minutes for a meeting in here on the agenda, but I didn't get them. Did anybody else get them in their package? No, okay. Yeah, the meeting that was after the site inspection, but I didn't get, they're not in the package, so I'll wait till, we'll wait till next month for those. All right, anybody else have anything else you want to talk about? Okay, if not, we have motion to adjourn. Dave moves to adjourn, second. Jack seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, we're out of here, 8:47. Thank you very much, everyone.